AITA for showing everyone the footage my girlfriend tried to hide? She didn't lie about the broken glass. She lied by starting the story after it broke. My name is Oliver. I am 30. I work evening shifts as a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property company. And for the last 3 years, I shared an apartment with my girlfriend, Kayla. We were both on the lease. We split rent, utilities, groceries, and the usual boring adult stuff. Most nights, my life was simple. Work, come home late, heat up leftovers, and try not to wake her up while I took my boots off by the door. That was the life I thought I had, anyway. What I actually had was a girlfriend who had given another man a key to our apartment, a couch he treated like his bed, a fridge he treated like his cooler, and a version of me she could sell to everyone once I finally snapped. Kayla was 29. When we met, she was funny, sharp, and the kind of person who could make a bad day feel lighter just by leaning against the kitchen counter and telling me some ridiculous story from work. I loved that about her. I loved coming home to the lamp on in the living room and the smell of her vanilla candle and the sound of her laughing at a show she had already watched twice. For a while, we were good. Then there was Mason. Mason was Kayla's best friend. He was 31, always between jobs, always figuring things out, and according to Kayla, he was basically family. She had known him before she knew me, and she used that fact like a shield anytime I said something felt off. At first, Mason was just around sometimes. Game nights. A quick stop to borrow a charger. Dropping off something Kayla had left in his car. Nothing that made me want to start a fight. Then sometimes turned into often. I would come home from work and find him stretched out on our sofa with his shoes still on, his phone charger plugged into the wall like it lived there, my throw blanket half on the floor, and a beer from my 6-pack sweating on the coffee table. Long night. I asked one time, setting my work bag down. Mason lifted the beer and grinned. You know it. Kayla was sitting on the other end of the couch, tucked under a blanket, like this was all completely normal. I looked at the beer. That was mine. She didn't even look up from the TV. It's one beer, Oliver. That became the theme. One beer, one snack, one night, one joke. One more line moved back until I barely recognized where the boundary had been. Mason started eating the wings I saved for work lunches. He knew which cabinet had the good chips. He would grab the remote without asking. He started making little jokes like, "Relax, man, I live here part-time." The first time he said that, I laughed because I thought he was joking. The third time, I said, "Don't say that." He held both hands up. Wow, tough crowd. Kayla gave me a look like I had embarrassed her. Later that night, while Mason was in the bathroom, I told her, "He's getting too comfortable here." She sighed like I had asked her to explain gravity. He's my best friend. He is in our apartment almost every time I come home. That's not true. It feels true. Well, feelings aren't facts. That one stuck with me. Anytime my feelings made her uncomfortable, suddenly she wanted evidence. But when she wanted to call me jealous, controlling, or insecure, feelings were enough. The real problem started with the key. Kayla told me she gave Mason our spare for emergencies. She mentioned it casually while we were folding laundry, like she was telling me she had picked up paper towels. I stopped with one of my work shirts in my hands. You gave him a key to our apartment? For emergencies. What emergencies? I don't know, Oliver. Emergencies. He doesn't live here. He's been in my life longer than you have. I remember staring at her because that sentence felt like it had been waiting behind her teeth for a while. I said, "That doesn't mean he gets access to the place I pay rent on." She threw my socks into the basket harder than necessary. "You're being possessive." "No, I'm being normal. He's like my brother. You're the only one making this gross." That was how it always went. I brought up a boundary. She turned it into a confession that I was insecure. I tried to let it go because I didn't want to be that guy. Nobody wants to be the boyfriend who gets weird about the male best friend. I told myself I was being sensitive because I worked nights and missed things. My schedule made it easy for people to act like I was paranoid, mainly because I usually wasn't there to prove anything. But little things kept happening. I would come home at midnight and the shower would be wet, even though Kayla said she had showered in the morning. Laundry detergent disappeared faster. The good towels were never where I left them. The air fryer got moved from the left side of the counter to the right. One Sunday, Mason came over while I was making coffee. He walked in with Kayla and said, "You moved the air fryer again?" I turned around. "Again?" He blinked, then shrugged. "I don't know. Kayla complains about it." Kayla cut in fast. Can we not do this before breakfast? At the time, I told myself I was connecting dots that weren't there. Later, I realized I was staring at the whole picture. About 6 months before everything reached a breaking point, Kayla told me she was house-sitting for a friend for 2 weeks. The friend supposedly had 2 cats and a complicated medication schedule, and Kayla said she was doing her a favor. I didn't love it, but it made sense. Kayla liked animals, and I worked evenings anyway. She said she would stop by during the day, grab clothes, and maybe spend a night or 2 at our place if she needed to. During those 2 weeks, I missed her. I texted her from work. I sent pictures of stupid maintenance problems. I told her the apartment felt too quiet. She replied things like, I miss you too. And these cats are incredibly needy. And I'll be home soon. I felt guilty for being annoyed that she was gone. I should have noticed that our utilities were higher that month. I should have noticed food still disappearing even though she was barely home. I should have noticed that the apartment didn't feel empty. But when you trust someone, your brain works hard to make the facts fit the trust. The night I finally caught up with the truth was a Thursday. My shift was supposed to run until 11:30, but a vendor canceled a repair, and my manager told me I could head out early. I was tired, my knees hurt from climbing ladders, and I decided to stop at a grocery store on the way home. I bought chicken, cereal, a bag of oranges, and a fresh pack of wings because the ones I had bought the day before had already started disappearing. I wasn't trying to catch anyone. I came home early because a vendor canceled. When I opened the apartment door, the first thing I saw was Mason on my sofa. Not just sitting there. He was wearing my gray work hoodie, the thick one with the property company logo on the sleeve. He had one of my beers in his hand, a paper plate of my wings on the coffee table, and his socked feet tucked under him like he was settling in for the night. For a split second, nobody moved. Then Mason sat up too fast and tried to smile. Oh, hey man. I looked at the hoodie first, then the beer, then the wings. Why are you wearing my hoodie? He tugged at the sleeve like he had forgotten it was on him. Kayla said it was cool. Behind him, the TV was on the Roku home screen. No movie, no pause show, just the home screen bouncing its little logo around like it was trying to mind its business. Then Kayla came out of the bedroom. Her hair was messy, and she had that defensive look people get when they are already preparing to blame you for noticing something. What are you doing home? She asked. It was not, hey, you're early. It was not, everything okay? It was, what are you doing home? I stepped inside and closed the door. I live here. Mason stood up from the couch. The hoodie stretched across his shoulders. He was taller than me, broader too, and for the first time, I realized how much of his casual attitude depended on me swallowing it. Kayla crossed her arms. We were just watching a movie. I looked at the TV. The movie was the Roku home screen. She rolled her eyes. It ended. Then why were you in the bedroom? Her face changed. Do not start. Why is he wearing my hoodie? Mason gave a small laugh, like I was being ridiculous. Relax, man. It's just a hoodie. I pointed at him. Take it off. Kayla snapped. You're embarrassing yourself. No. What is embarrassing is walking into my apartment and finding your best friend dressed in my clothes, eating my food, drinking my beer, while you come out of our bedroom. Mason muttered, this is why I didn't want to be here when he got back. That sentence did something to me. Not because it was the worst thing said that night, but because it proved this wasn't random. He knew he wasn't supposed to be there. Kayla knew it too. I stepped closer. Take off my hoodie. Mason smirked. You gonna cry about it? Kayla said, this is exactly what I mean. You're unstable. I wish I could say I stayed calm. I didn't. I completely lost my temper. I slammed my keys down hard on the kitchen table, and one bounced onto the floor. In my frustration, a glass got knocked off the counter and broke near the sink. A dining chair was knocked sideways, hitting the leg of the table with a crack. I demanded that Mason take off my hoodie and yelled at him to get out. I did not hit him. I did not touch Kayla. I did not block the door. But I lost control of my emotions, and the apartment showed it. Mason backed toward the door, now in his t-shirt, trying to act calm, but moving fast. Kayla pulled out her phone. That was the part one didn't understand in the moment. I was breathing hard in the kitchen. There was glass on the floor, beer spreading under the cabinets. The chair was half tipped over, and she started recording. She didn't record Mason in my hoodie. She didn't record the wings, the beer, or him using a key to get in. She recorded the broken glass. She recorded the cracked chair. She recorded me standing there with my hands shaking, looking exactly like the kind of man people tell women to run from. "This is what I deal with," she said into the phone. I looked at her. "Are you serious?" She kept filming. "Look at this. Look at what you did." And the worst part was, she wasn't wrong about that piece. I did do that. I gave her the footage she needed. I slept on Derek's couch that night. Derek is a co-worker of mine, 34, practical in a way that can be annoying until you need it. He had been through a messy lease dispute a few years earlier, and he understood paperwork like some people understand sports. I showed up at his place around 1 in the morning with my work bag, my hoodie shoved under my arm, and my head still buzzing. He listened while I talked too fast. Then he handed me a bottle of water and said, "Do not send that text." I didn't even say I was sending one. You have the face of a man composing a paragraph that starts with you lying and ends with you looking worse. I hated that he was right. The next morning, my phone was full of messages. Rachel, one of our mutual friends, wrote, "Oliver, are you okay? Kayla sent the video. That looked bad." Another friend wrote, "Dude, what happened?" Someone else asked, "Were you alone with her when that happened?" Then the group chat started. "Kayla said you destroyed the apartment." Bro, that's scary. You need to take accountability. I sat on Derek's couch and felt my whole body get hot with anger again. I typed, "Ask her why Mason was in my hoodie." Derek leaned over, read it, and said, "Delete it. She's lying. She won the first story because she had video," he said. "Go get the rest of the story." "What rest?" He pointed at my phone. "Screenshots, receipts, lease, bills, anything that proves what she left out. Stop trying to win a shouting match. Win the paperwork." So I stopped texting. That was the first smart thing I did. I went back to the apartment later that day when Kayla said she wouldn't be there. I took photos of the mess I caused. I swept up the glass. I took pictures of the chair leg, the floor, the table, everything. Not because I was proud of it, but because I was done letting Kayla decide what was shown and what wasn't. Then I started looking at money. Rent was split, but a lot of the comfort in that apartment had come through my card or my bank account. The sofa, the TV stand, the coffee table, the air fryer, most of the kitchenware, the bedroom dresser. The security deposit had come from my savings because Kayla was short that month and said she would pay me back when things evened out. Things never evened out. The internet was under my name. The main streaming accounts were mine. Renter's insurance was mine. The storage unit where Kayla kept old seasonal decorations and boxes from before we moved in was on my card because, again, she was going to switch it over later. I pulled grocery receipts too. I am not petty enough to argue over chicken wings, but I wanted to see the pattern. Packs of beer gone too fast. Extra paper towels. Extra detergent. Higher electric and water bills during the 2 weeks Kayla claimed she was house sitting. I wasn't just sharing an apartment. I was subsidizing the stage they used to make me look crazy. The next step was the cameras. Our building had hallway cameras. Everybody knew it because Mrs. Alvarez, the property manager, mentioned them constantly whenever someone left trash by the elevator. She was in her mid-50s, sharp, tired of everybody's drama, and not the kind of person you could charm into taking sides. I called the office and asked if I could speak with her. When she answered, I said, "I'm not asking you to get involved personally. I need to know the formal process for reviewing hallway footage related to unauthorized key access to my unit." There was a pause. "Unauthorized key access?" she asked. "Someone who is not on my lease has been entering the apartment with a key. I am a tenant. I need to know what the building can verify." She sighed. "Oliver, I am not becoming part of a domestic argument. I understand. I am asking for procedure, not gossip." That helped. She told me to put the request in writing with the date range and reason. She said the building would not hand me raw footage to do whatever I wanted with, but they could review access patterns, preserve relevant clips, and provide documentation if needed for a lease dispute. I sent the request that afternoon. 2 days later, Mrs. Alvarez called me into the office. She had the same tired look she always had, but this time there was something else behind it. Not sympathy exactly. More like, "Well, this is messy. I can't give you a copy directly without the proper release," she said. "But I can confirm what we found in writing, and if you need the actual clips preserved, we can do that." "What did you find?" She turned her monitor just enough for me to see. "Mason. Over and over. Mason entering our floor during my evening shifts. Mason using a key. Mason leaving hours later. Mason coming back with takeout. Mason walking in like he knew exactly where he was going. Not once. Not twice. A pattern. It is a weird feeling to be relieved and furious at the same time. Relieved because I wasn't crazy. Furious because the thing I wasn't crazy about was real. Then Mrs. Alvarez clicked to another date. Mason walked down the hallway with a duffel bag. He used the key and went into our apartment. The timestamp was from the first week Kayla was supposedly house-sitting. Another clip showed him leaving late the next morning in the same clothes. Another showed him returning that night. Another showed Kayla coming in with grocery bags. Another showed Mason leaving with the duffel nearly 2 weeks later. I just stared. Those were the dates Kayla told me she was sleeping at her friend's place, taking care of needy cats. She wasn't away. She was hiding Mason in our apartment. I thought about the texts I sent her during those 2 weeks. The ones where I said I missed her. The ones where I felt bad for wishing she would come home. She made me feel guilty for missing her, while she was letting another man use the place I paid rent on like a free crash pad. Mrs. Alvarez said gently, "Oliver?" I realized I hadn't spoken. I cleared my throat. "Can you preserve those clips?" "Yes." "And can you provide a written summary with timestamps?" "Yes, if the request is tied to the lease issue." "It is." When I left the office, I didn't call Kayla. I didn't call Mason. I sat in my truck in the parking lot and breathed until my hands stopped shaking. Then I called Derek. He answered with, "Tell me you did not text her." "I didn't." "Good. What did you find?" I told him. He was quiet for a second, then said, "Okay. Now you are done arguing about feelings. Everything from here is facts." That became the rule. Facts only. I made a folder on my laptop. Lease. Deposit. Utilities. Furniture receipts. Grocery receipts. Storage unit charges. Screenshots of Kayla saying Mason barely came over. Screenshots of her saying the key was for emergencies. Screenshots from the group chat where she called me unstable. The written summary from Mrs. Alvarez with dates and times. I also wrote down my own part. Broken glass. Damaged chair. Frame knocked off the wall. I wasn't going to pretend I handled it well. If this went legal, I wanted the truth clean, even the parts that made me look bad. Then I started cutting financial ties in ways that would not get me in trouble. I didn't shut off essential utilities while Kayla was living there. I gave notice. I transferred what I could. I removed my card from the storage unit and told Kayla in writing she had 7 days to put it under her name or move her things. I canceled the streaming services. I scheduled internet cancellation for after the proper notice period. I contacted renter's insurance and removed coverage tied to the apartment after my move-out date. I sent every message by email, not text. One of them said, "Kayla, attached is an itemized list of furniture and household accounts paid through my card or bank account. If you want to keep the listed items, I need payment by the date below. Otherwise, I will arrange pickup during move-out. I am also requesting repayment for the documented shared expenses listed in the attachment." I attached photos, receipts, current estimated values, and the dates the items were purchased. She replied 16 minutes later, "You're trying to punish me financially because I embarrassed you." I wrote back, "You allowed someone who does not pay rent to use the apartment, furniture, utilities, food, and services I paid for. I am asking for documented repayment and property division. I will keep this in writing." Then I stopped. No arguing. No defending my feelings. No late-night paragraphs. Kayla hated that. She called me 9 times that night. I didn't answer. She texted, "You can't just hide behind emails." Then, "You're acting insane." Then, "Mason said he doesn't want to be dragged into this." Then, "You're really going to throw away 3 years over a hoodie?" A hoodie. That was how she wanted to shrink it. Not the key. Not the lies. Not the 2 weeks. Not the edited video. A hoodie. I responded once the next morning. "This is not about a hoodie. Keep communication about the lease, bills, and property in writing." A few days later, Rachel texted me privately. "Can you come over Saturday? Some of us are worried. Not attacking you. We just think everyone needs to talk." I knew exactly what that meant. Kayla had organized an intervention. I almost said no. Derek told me to go. "Bring copies," he said. "It's going to be a trap. Then don't show up empty-handed." So I went. Rachel lived in a second-floor apartment with a tiny living room and too many plants. When I walked in, there were pizza boxes on the coffee table, paper plates stacked next to a bowl of salad nobody was touching, and 6 people sitting around like we were about to discuss my behavior in a very casual courtroom. Kayla sat on the couch with a tissue in her hand. Mason was not there. Of course he wasn't. Rachel stood up when I came in. Thanks for coming. I nodded and sat in the chair closest to the door. Kayla looked smaller than usual, which I'm sure was the point. She had no makeup on, hair pulled back, hoodie sleeves over her hands. Not my hoodie, at least. Rachel started. We're not attacking you. We just think you need to take responsibility. I agree, I said. That seemed to throw her off. Kayla sniffed. I've been scared of your temper for a long time. I looked at her. For a long time? She nodded. You explode. You make me feel like I have to manage your emotions. One of our friends, Marcus, said, the video was bad, man. I know, I said. Kayla blinked. I continued. I was wrong for losing my temper and breaking things. I shouldn't have knocked over the glass. I shouldn't have kicked the chair. I shouldn't have yelled like that. Rachel softened a little. Okay, that's good to hear. I said, I was wrong for breaking things. I was not wrong about what she hid. The room changed. Kayla sat up. Don't. I pulled my phone out. If we're doing accountability, we're doing all of it. She stood. Oliver, you're taking this out of context. I looked at Rachel. Can I connect this to your TV? Rachel hesitated. Kayla said, this is not okay. Rachel looked between us and quietly handed me the remote. I connected my phone and opened the saved clips Mrs. Alvarez had released through the proper process for the least dispute. Not every second. Not anything private. Just hallway footage and timestamps. Before I hit play, I said, if you watched her video, you watched the ending. Now watch the beginning. Mason appeared on the screen. The room went quiet. There he was, walking down our hallway during my shift, using a key, going into the apartment. Another date. Same thing. Another date. Same thing. Then the duffel bag. Rachel leaned forward. Wait. Kayla said, that doesn't show anything. I didn't look at her. I changed to the next clip. Mason leaving the next morning. Coming back that night. Kayla with grocery bags. Mason entering again. Mason leaving almost 2 weeks later with the duffel. Rachel turned to Kayla. Why did he have a key? Kayla's face was red. I told you. Emergencies. Marcus said, that looks like a lot of emergencies. Kayla snapped. He needed a place to stay for a little while. It wasn't like that. I finally looked at her. Those dates are when you told me you were house sitting. She opened her mouth, closed it, then said, because I knew you'd react like this. I almost laughed, but not because it was funny. So you lied because I would be upset if you told the truth? You make everything impossible. No. You made our apartment available to a man who doesn't live there, doesn't pay rent, doesn't pay utilities, eats food he didn't buy, wears clothes that aren't his, and then you filmed my reaction when I found out. Kayla wiped at her face. You're trying to humiliate me. I said, you sent a video of me at my worst to everyone in this room. Nobody said anything. I pulled paper copies from my folder and put them on Rachel's coffee table, moving a pizza box to the side. Lease copy. Only Kayla and me as tenants. Utility records. Security deposit payment confirmation. Furniture receipts. Screenshots of Kayla saying Mason only came over occasionally. The written summary of hallway footage with timestamps. I said, I am not asking you to love me, apologize, or explain him. I am asking you to pay what you owe. You have 30 days to settle the documented bills, buy out the furniture you want to keep, or I file in small claims. Kayla stared at me like she had never seen me before. Maybe she hadn't. The old version of me would have yelled until my throat hurt. This version had copies. She said, you're making this about money. It became about money when you let someone use a home I was paying for. Rachel picked up one of the papers. Kayla, why didn't you tell us Mason was there? Kayla said, because that's not the point. It kind of is, Rachel said. That was the moment Kayla lost the room. Not all at once. Not dramatically. Nobody stood up and clapped. Nobody gave me some speech about being right. Real life is quieter and more uncomfortable than that. Marcus looked down at his plate. Another friend stared at the TV. Someone who had written, bro, that's scary, in the group chat suddenly became very interested in his drink. Rachel looked at me and said, Oliver, I'm sorry. I should have asked what happened before the video. I nodded. Thank you. That was all I needed. Not a parade. Just one person admitting the story had been edited. Before I left, I sent the video clips and documents to the same group chat Kayla had used. I wrote, "She showed you the mess I made. Here's the mess she was hiding." Then I left Rachel's apartment and walked down the stairs feeling lighter and sick at the same time. The next week was ugly, but not in a loud way. Kayla tried every angle. First she said I was cruel. Then she said I was cold. Then she said I was letting Derek poison me. Then she said Mason had nowhere else to go and I should have been compassionate. I asked one question. Is Mason contributing to the rent and bills for the time he stayed there? Suddenly Mason became hard to reach. Kayla finally admitted she had asked him for money. His response, according to her, was that he didn't sign anything and didn't want to be in the middle of relationship drama. I laughed when she told me. I couldn't help it. Funny how fast a best friend becomes a bystander when rent is mentioned. Mason texted me once. "Man, I'm not trying to be in the middle of this." Kayla said everything was cool. I replied, "You used a key to enter an apartment where you were not a tenant. Do not contact me again unless it is about repayment." He didn't respond. That was Mason in one sentence. Comfortable when the beer was free, invisible when the bill arrived. Moving out took time because lease stuff is not magic. Mrs. Alvarez did not snap her fingers and remove Kayla. She explained what I could and could not do. I submitted my notice properly. Kayla and I had to sign paperwork about responsibility through the end of the period. I paid what I legally owed, not $1 more than I had to. I took move-out photos of every room. The scuffed baseboards, the cleaned kitchen, the patched wall where the framed print had fallen, the empty spot where my air fryer used to be. I documented the chair I had damaged and deducted my fair share from what Kayla owed because I wasn't going to pretend that part wasn't mine. Kayla bought out the sofa and TV stand because she didn't want the apartment looking empty. I took the coffee table, air fryer, kitchenware, and dresser. She repaid part of the security deposit and several shared bills after I sent a final written demand with the small claims filing information attached. She didn't do it because she suddenly became fair. She did it because paperwork is harder to cry over than a group chat. Some friends apologized. Rachel did. Marcus sent a message that said, "I judged too fast. Sorry." Others went quiet. That bothered me for a while, but then I realized silence was their way of not having to admit they helped carry a lie. I didn't chase them for apologies. Kayla's last real message to me was, "I hope you're happy that you made everyone think I'm a liar." I stared at it for a long time. Then I wrote back, "I didn't make them think anything. I showed them what you left out." After that, I blocked her except for email until the final lease issues were done. The day I moved into my new place, Derek helped me carry the dresser up the stairs. We were both sweating, both annoyed, and both pretending the dresser wasn't heavier than it looked. When we finally got it into the bedroom, he leaned against the wall and said, "So, what did we learn?" I said, "Never buy heavy furniture." He laughed. Besides that, I looked around at the boxes, the bare walls, the cheap folding chair in the corner, and the quiet. The quiet part felt better than any argument I could have won. I still hate that I gave Kayla that video. I hate that when people first saw the story, they saw me as a guy breathing hard next to broken glass. I hate that I let Mason's smirk and Kayla's deflection pull me into exactly the reaction they could use. I was angry. I had a right to be angry. But being angry did not mean I had to hand someone a weapon. That is the part one carry with me now. Not Kayla. Not Mason. Not the hoodie. The lesson that control protects you better than rage ever will. I did not leave that relationship because of one night. I left because my home stopped feeling like mine, because my boundaries kept getting renamed as jealousy, because another man had a key to my apartment and my girlfriend thought the real problem was that I found out. I accepted responsibility for the mess I made. I refused responsibility for the mess she hid. And the next time someone tries to make me doubt what I can see in my own home, I won't explode. I'll document, protect myself, and leave sooner. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.